Simply Financial with Christopher Calandra, Certified Financial Planner, is an innovative, comprehensive, informative, and cutting-edge podcast that discusses financial topics ranging from personal finance, economics, politics, and personal growth. Simply Financial will cover intriguing and thought-provoking questions so that the listener can simply increase their financial IQ.
Welcome to episode number 39, season 3 of the Simply Financial podcast. As always, I'm your host, Christopher Calandra. So, as expected, the Federal Reserve cut short-term interest rates by 25 basis points on September 18th, 2019. What's weird about this is that the Fed cut interest rates, but they only made changes to their economic outlook. I should say only minor changes to its economic outlook. And that's kind of weird given that the Fed has significantly changed their policy compared to a year ago. They seem to be moving away from data dependence. And the Fed itself is divided. We had 3 members voting against the rate cut. Now, Chairman Powell highlighted in his press conference what I consider 3 reasons for this most recent rate cut. Number 1 is uncertainty. And I think most people would agree that there seems to be more uncertainty in the economy, both here in the U.S. as well as globally. He also pointed to slower growth. So number 1 was uncertainty. 2 was slower economic growth. Again, not just here, but globally. And number 3 is that he said that the appropriate level of rates to keep economic growth going have, and I quote, changed significantly. So they're lowering rates because they want to keep sustained economic growth. But it's unclear what has changed significantly. Probably relates to the ongoing trade battle with China that the U.S. is engaged in. But to me, it sounds like they sort of moved the goalpost. They wanted to cut rates for probably numerous reasons, but changing the goalpost seems to make the most sense because I'm not sure what changed significantly compared to just a few months ago. The point of all of this is that the pivot to uncertainty continues. Just a couple of episodes ago, we did 2 episodes on interest rates. The first one, episode number 32, the Powell pivot, I talked about how the Federal Reserve and Chairman Powell really pivoted to where they were in September and October of 2018, where they anticipated a continuation of interest rate hikes that had began in December 2016, continued through 2017, and also into 18, where we had 4 rate hikes in 2018, bringing the total number up to 8. And in a remarkable turn of events, instead of continuing to raise interest rates, we now have a new trend, and that is declining interest rates, with the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates twice now in 2019, including the one on September 18th. So we did that episode, number 32, on the Powell pivot. Strongly encourage you to listen in on that. The following episode, number 33, titled The Pivot to Uncertainty, talked a little bit more about what this interest rate uncertainty means and what other factors that are at play that are increasing the uncertainty in the marketplace. And this is a really, really important topic for the economy, for the federal government, and for the markets, including the stock market. So what happens next? It's really a big question mark. Probably the Federal Reserve will cut again before year end, probably another quarter point cut or 0.25% basis point cut. But uncertainty is increasing. What the Fed's policy is, I think, is creating more uncertainty. I seem to sense, having read a lot about this and listened to numerous interviews and watching CNBC and that kind of thing, my sense is that the confidence in the Fed is beginning to decline a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. Uncertainty is increasing too with the China battle on the trade front. It's taking a long time. Both sides are negotiating hard and leveraging as much as they can, and it has the markets uneasy. Also, like Jay Powell said, is economic growth seems to be declining. Now, economic growth is still good. I don't buy into the recession fears that, we're on the verge of a recession, but economic growth seems to be slowing here and abroad. And let me throw in one thing that I have not spoken about yet on the podcast, but I have begun speaking to our clients about this topic as we do reviews of their financial and investment plan, and that is the uncertainty regarding the presidential election. The markets do not seem to be focused on that just yet, but this seems to be another watershed presidential election. We have a very open field on the Democratic side of things, so it's quite unclear who the Democratic nominee will be. I saw a poll this week that indicated that only 9% of likely Democratic primary voters have settled on a candidate. So even though the polling has Joe Biden in first place and Elizabeth Warren in second place, that may be very fluid given the poll I just cited. I think as time marches on and we get into 2020, the market will begin paying a little more attention to the presidential election and some of the uncertainty regarding who's going to be the Democratic nominee, and furthermore, what policy prescriptions the ultimate nominee has versus what President Trump's second administration might look like. It's not factored into the market yet, but I don't think it's that far out into the future. But once again, uncertainty is increasing. I also will close on this. I think that the Federal Reserve, in my opinion, cut rates, the moving of the goalposts, is mostly about China. And I think even though President Trump has criticized Jay Powell in sort of a nasty way, I think the Federal Reserve cutting rates is an attempt to help the administration, to help the country battle it out with China and give them room to maneuver by easing interest rates, promoting economic growth. And so I think it's a coordinated effort by the Federal Reserve and the administration. When I say coordinated, not that they necessarily sat down and talked about it, but all of the indications are that this trade battle with China is going to last a little bit, and it's hurting U.S. economic growth. And many U.S. company CEOs have talked about the uncertainty and have talked about the slowing of their sales numbers because of the trade battle. So I think under that lens, it makes sense why the Fed cut interest rates. And I can buy into that, and I'm okay with that. But then again, I would have been okay if they didn't cut interest rates in September, and I would be okay if they didn't cut interest rates again before the end of the year. If Chairman Powell called and asked me, that would be my opinion. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think we'll probably get another rate cut this year, and hopefully the Fed knows what they're doing. If you wanted to talk about this or any other money topic, please reach out to us. Go to the Elliott Wealth website, which is www.elliottwealth.com. We could do a free consultation with you or a complimentary consultation if you're not a client of ours already. Thank you so much. As I always request, if you haven't subscribed to this podcast, please do so at various platforms, iTunes, Stitcher, and so on. You could also go to the website and subscribe there. Thanks so much. I'll be back with you very soon for the next episode of the Simply Financial podcast.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of SagePoint Financial Incorporated and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. No strategy can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Please note, the information being provided is strictly as a courtesy. When you link to any of the websites provided here, you are leaving this website. We make no representation as to the completeness or accuracy of the information provided at these websites, nor is the company liable for any direct or indirect technical or system issues or any consequences arising out of your access to your use of third-party technologies, websites, information, and programs made available through this website. When you access one of these websites, you are leaving our website and assume total responsibility and risk for your use of the websites you are linking to. Securities and advisory services are offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Insurance services offered through Elliott Wealth Management, LLC, not affiliated with SagePoint Financial.
Simply Financial is part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can find Exvadio podcasts at exvadio.com/podcast, the Apple Podcasts app, iTunes Store, iHeartRadio app, Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever you find podcasts. So join us and stay informed and entertained.